What up, guys? Welcome to this episode of Santa Cruz Medicinals Radio. Today, we're going to be diving into an amazing topic. It's somewhat controversial. It's the whole world of peptides, gear, all of these things that have become extremely prevalent, especially in young people. So we're with the homie Ian, and we got Jacob here, and we're going to just dive into this topic. It's mostly going to be, obviously, Ian talking about this because he is in this world. He knows a lot about it, and I don't know a lot about it. Jacob wants to learn more about it. I want to learn more about it, and we need to dive into it right now. So the first thing I want to sort of ask you about is this world of peptides. Like, what are peptides? I've heard a lot about BPC-157. A lot of people in the JiuJitsu community are using it and saying, oh my God, this is like healing my injuries. TB500 is another one. Let's just start there as a jumping off point. What overall are peptides? Little rant about that, and then get into BPC.
Yeah, so peptides are just chains of amino acids that exude different benefits within the body, and some may come with certain risk factors, of course, but a variety of them are already approved by the FDA. There's 12 different GLP-1 drugs that are approved by the FDA. These are widely used.
Ozmpic and stuff, those are peptides.
Yes, those are peptides. Glucagon-like peptide. There's different receptor agonists that these different drugs may activate, but they are peptides. And so there's also things like Vyleesi, which is PT141, that a lot of gray area sites carry. But peptides just generally are a way to, they're still considered natural. They're exploiting something your body would naturally do or produce in small amounts. And many things are lumped in with the category of peptides, but they may actually be hormones or other pharmaceuticals that aren't actually truly peptides. And this industry is a mire. There are people really trying to make money, and they're not truly caring about access or the health of the patients. And I know that we're going to talk about the issue with the amount of young people that are being targeted for this, and the amount of young people, especially in looks maxing.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, we're definitely going to get into that. And like you were saying, there's a lot of people trying to make money in this. So when you Google any peptide, it'll seem like the best thing in the world. This is one thing I've noticed. Just hearing people talk about something, I'm like, let me see what this is. And you Google any peptide, and it's like, well, this will enhance wound healing, and this will help you put on lean muscle, and this will help you reduce fat. And this is oftentimes put out by, and where's this information coming from? This is on a website selling these things. So it gets a bit dicey. Yeah, so elaborate on that.
There's like 200 different wellness clinics. They're all selling the... of course they're going to push the sale. These things can be beneficial to many people depending on what it is and, if it's used intelligently. But of course, you can still experience negative side effects, and it just, it's ultimately up to your genetics, your diet, the dose that you're taking, the quality of the product. And I'm not trying to promote this stuff here. I'm not going to use your platform to try to,
No,
sell.
but I want to have a genuine conversation about it, because it's not something that I would never use BPC-157 or, there's so many different types of peptides, right?
Yeah.
So getting into something like BPC-157, why and how is it helping people with their injuries? There's so many reports of this. I've looked up some of the PubMed papers of, it's kind of dark. They blow out the Achilles tendon on a rat, and then they inject it with BPC-157 in it. There's some regrowth there. And then obviously all these people in the bodybuilding and jiu-jitsu community saying, oh, I messed up my rotator cuff. I injected it with BPC-157 and it healed really quick. How is it doing that?
So these things can be fantastic. There's a variety. It's not just BPC, body protective compound 157. There's also, people will commonly bring up thymosin beta 4 or TB500 and then KPV. Now, these are tissue healing peptides, but they also help with bone remineralization, and they are used for a wide variety of things. They're generally assisting with cell migration and angiogenesis. They're helping with the vascular tube, vascular endothelial growth factor. They're helping with making this mesh network of these microtubules to deliver nutrients, deliver blood into a region. But they're also helping with the formation of collagen, this structure within cartilage, so it can be used for ligament injuries. People have used it for ACL, MCL injuries as well. And some of them can help with the total quality, the spongy body of the cartilage. And long term, people have this understanding or belief that through endochondral ossification, that cartilage body growth helps to contribute to stronger bone growth. And that's why there's research on TB500 healing fractures, like femur fractures. These things have been used for a variety of those. Of course, there is a risk if you're mega dosing these things. One, it's just expensive to be using these things consistently. if you're megadosing it, you can get side effects with swelling within the collagen within your face.
Yeah, you showed me a photo of a guy that like did like extremely high doses in his face. Did you see that photo?
Yeah, that was kind of freaky.
It was kind of freaky. So angiogenesis, because I want to like keep it super simple for some of this stuff with people. Like basically, when you have an injury to an area, you get some ligament, some tendon damage. Your body's kind of trying to get blood flow there, but it's running into some issues. And angiogenesis is the formation of new blood vessels, as far as I understand. And so having anything that would promote that would be wound healing. Is that how that is?
But there are also people raising the potential concern, although, and this goes for anything, that if there's not substantive human research for it, that like they're raising the precaution that, what if this causes cancer? And of course there are different growth factors that may contribute to that. That's one thing that I've criticized about things like dihexa. That's a nootropic that was used to treat Alzheimer's, but the hepatocyte growth factor does raise the likelihood of the indice of cancer, the creation of cancer. I have yet to see compelling evidence, and I'm not working in pharmacology truly, but I've not yet to see any compelling evidence that even TB500, which is the main thing that people will point to, is causing or raising the likelihood of cancer. But it's just a mechanistic likelihood that they're pointing towards. Again, not even in animal models have we seen that. But yes, there are.
So it's like, the naysayers of a lot of these things, and I know every compound is different, everything is different, but they will sort of say, you use these things, they're going to feed cancer, like the growth hormone protocols and BPC and stuff, like those things might work, but they're going to feed cancer. It's kind of the general way people are saying that. And you're saying it's much more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
And that might not be the case for some compounds. It might have potential harm for other compounds. So yeah, that's
whenever people ask this question, and first and foremost, I want to put this out there immediately. That like I'll get these messages and every single creator gets these messages where they're saying, "Hey, I'm 15, I'm 16. Should I take this? I want to grow taller," or "Should I take this? I want to achieve such and such goal." I won't respond to those. And additionally, you shouldn't be asking people for use guidelines. And if people are giving you that information, that's and you are underage, I think that's an integrity question that people need to analyze on their own. But clearly, yes, there are some risks. These things do come with a more nuanced understanding. It's a really, physiology is such a complicated thing that even just learning gradually and passively over the last 4 years on my own, I've been blown away to the point where I want to pursue something in graduate education for pharmacology and go back to school for that. But yeah, it is far more complicated than that, implying that even growth hormone, which is the most probably widely used thing in hormone replacement therapy for even aging populations. Older men will use growth hormone for the maintenance of bone health, and it's the same with the ligament health.
Mm-hmm. So this is interesting with growth hormone, because when the Liver King thing went off and he was using and it's going off again, but when the original liver thing, did you see that when he was they released his protocol or whatever, what he was using, and it was a lot of growth hormone. I had to really look into this, see people's posts on it. And then I started looking into, okay, why is he taking this much growth hormone? As far as I understand it, growth hormone is not necessarily anabolic. People are using it for fat loss in some regard, and like you were saying, there's some skin benefits potentially for it, and maybe we'll ease that into the looks maxing conversation of why so many young kids are getting into these. And so, what is the deal with growth hormone? I think when people hear that know nothing about it, they think this will make you grow, your muscles grow. What's really going on when people are injecting growth hormone?
Well, and I will say that if you were using abuse levels of growth hormone, you can get symptoms of acromegaly, the growth and swelling,
your hands swelling
of your ears, nose, all of these things, and then it can cause additionally, even just temporarily, I don't want to say, but even just temporarily, carpal tunnel syndrome and other side effects that people may be worried about. And if you're using it intelligently, or if it's done with doctors' oversight, which is hopefully the intention, if it's done through a clinic, even though that is still expensive, you will find, of course, benefit. The growth hormone is and I'm sure that there are people who are going to say that they could have described this better than I could, and some people might have worked in clinics for 2 decades, because growth hormone has been ubiquitous since the 90s, especially. But the benefit for hair, skin, and nails, generally collagen, and then just bone mineral health, even aging populations like nonagenarians finding great benefit, lowering the likelihood of femur and hip fractures, maintaining some level of energy. The growth hormone helps with the quality of your sleep as well. During key stages of growth, during your teenage years, you're producing high amounts of growth hormone. You're sleeping, resting more, recovering better. And that's some of the things that people look at. But there are also, if you were using it specifically for weight loss, while it does, there is a lipolytic pathway, a variety of them within growth hormone. There are certain peptides that isolate the growth hormone's lipolytic pathway, like HGH fragment 176 and AOD 9604. Growth hormone is probably one of the most widely used things, though. Mm-hmm. I think that if you can say that something's going to have a benefit to people, it would be for aging populations, of course, prescribed by a doctor, testosterone replacement therapy, and low levels of growth hormone because of the diminishing production of growth hormone as you age.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really curious about this conversation, because I do think these are things that I would consider when I'm older. Why would I not take advantage of these things? And we'll get into some of the reasons why I haven't taken advantage of some of these things, because it gets more complex. I think it's people should really know about. And yeah, have you seen a lot of this in the lifting community? You have. You've worked out at what's the gym in Texas? Alpha Land?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people on that.
Yeah, it's definitely becoming much, much more prominent. There's a lot of people who are utilizing these tools to get as big and as strong and be as not injured as possible.
Yeah, for sure. And so basically, I think a lot of young people that are smart, man, they look into this info, they go, okay, well, I'm 16. I want to be jacked. I want to look good. Why would I not? We talked to Clavicular, this influencer who is a big proponent. He's 19 years old. He's a big proponent of basically telling young kids, hey, these are tools that you should use and are great. And he's on TRT at 19, which is you're basically just taking lower levels of testosterone is a good way to say it simply.
Yeah.
Now, in your opinion, if somebody is 16 years old and they're going, okay, I can go online, I can buy these things, and theoretically, won't it just get me in better shape and have benefits for my hair, skin, and nails? What are some of the potential risks for a population like that? Just going, okay, this is only good. Why don't I take it?
So I'll look at this in a few angles. Primarily, I'll say that you shouldn't be, at 16, you should be focused primarily on just your own natural growth potential and just locking down diet, sleep, and exercise. And
which you've delved into huge benefits. If an extra hour of real sleep was packaged into a pill, whew,
that would be the most marketable thing in the universe of wellness.
Absolutely. And it's something you can achieve. And it's when I'm locked in and I'm doing my 10-minute meditation before bed, and I'm just dialing all that in, I'm lowering the, artificial blue light exposure, oh my God, my sleep is so much better. And it does feel, if there was a pill that could, or an injection or whatever that could get me that, it would be insane and probably one of the most talked about things ever. So that's very important to note. And so, yeah, keep on going.
Well, and since we're focusing on 16-year-olds or people who are underage in general, and because there's always been a market for selective androgen receptor modulators or SARMs and other, random pre-steroid precursors, these things, clearly come with some side effects. Now, peptides may not have that side effect when it comes to your hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis. It may not cause issues like infertility or lowered fertility or disruptions to testosterone. Just because that is the case, just because you can do it safely, doesn't mean that you should, one, be spending your hard-earned money that is limited during your young age on something. And I have a financial incentive to tell you that you should buy it. But if you're under 18, I don't want to tell 16-year-olds that they should be going and buying this. I also think it sets you up for a negative mindset where if you don't get the results you want, you're willing to do whatever comes next.
It does seem like more and more. And so this pathway I've seen, and talking to thousands and thousands of kids under 18 who are interested in health, I've seen a lot of these messages, a lot of people in person go down this pathway of, okay, they think that there are SARMs, like you were saying, which are basically, they view them as a way to delve into steroids, which I know SARMs and steroids are different, but they view it as a way to, I can use this SARM and it will give me a little bit of help in the gym and it has no bad side effects at all. But then you look into some of the information on these SARMs and you do see people sometimes experiencing some shutdown effects, which I want you to go into what those shutdown effects are in general. Like you were touching on the axis.
Yeah.
So explore that.
So, and there's a variety of other side effects from different SARMs. Some things like S4, S23 can cause vision impairment. I mean, if you were to even use SERMs, selective estrogen receptor modulators, some of those have, blurriness of your vision in impairment of vision long term. So it's not just alteration in cognition and mood, but it's also like potentials for nerve and ocular health, that there's an impairment and things. People aren't worried about these things. Same with like the importance of, if you don't want to shut down your estrogen completely, some people will make these arguments. I'll get into the SARMs in a second and talk about how it is still suppressive, but people will talk about, well, what if I use a histone dehydrogenase inhibitor or something coupled with growth hormone releasing hormones, growth hormone releasing peptides in an effort to grow taller. I'm a certain age, I want to use HD, ACs, and aromatase inhibitors to prevent my growth plates from closing, something that's going to help with the potential proliferation and growth of bone, and then exude as much total growth hormone as I can naturally, unless they just go all the way in and just buy growth hormone through gray area sites that are out there. These people are putting themselves at risk, not only potentially heightened risk of developing a cancer, which is a highly disputed topic, also issues with like vomiting, nausea, severe like central nervous system issues, and then aromatase inhibitors. Crashing your estrogen into the ground is cardiotoxic. It is destructive to your brain. Estrogen is neuroprotective. It helps with the maintenance of your bone mineral density. Having no estrogen in your body is not only going to cause you to feel like extreme neurological issues, but it's going to weaken your bones and weaken your heart. So doing so is ill-advised. And people who are saying this without any substance, they don't understand what they're saying. Additionally, when it comes to SARMs even, which was, these things, they still do have suppressive effects. Of course, there's an argument that things like AC262 or Ostarine might have less so, and you could do these things and naturally recover. And yes, there are ways to recover your total, intratesticular testosterone production, but it's going to require even more work. And people think that I can just take these and get off and have no suppression, no side effects. And it's significant. It's potentially driving infertility, lowering the total amount of, Leydig cell and Sertoli cell testicular testosterone production, but also lowering your total germ cell production. If you want to have kids, that is one of the main vectors of health. So if you're in your 20s, even if you're not like underage, and you think, well, I'm not taking actual steroids, I'm just taking SARMs. I can buy that at like GNC or some random supplement shop. And then you're walking around, you have like 200 nanograms per deciliter testosterone, and you're agitated and moody, and you're forgetting things, and you're actually like borderline impotent. That's a serious risk, and people are not aware of this.
And that's literally in general, like that's what these kids and young people are trying to avoid, right? Becoming very low testosterone, having their balls shut down, basically, is what you're saying, and becoming more of like the estrogenic, what they view as estrogenic, like moody person.
Yeah.
Like you can have that caused by taking some of these substances. And now we get into some of the testosterone, actually taking testosterone. I think a lot of people that don't research this a lot will look at it as, I can take a low dose of testosterone. They literally look at it as like a really dumb math equation. Oh, I got my levels checked and I'm having trouble getting above 500 nanograms per deciliter in testosterone. So if I'm taking about 200, 300, whatever, every other day, whatever the protocol is, I'm going to bump that up and it's going to get higher. Yeah. Thus, good. What is the more, because I'm not anti-TRT. I mean, there's so much research on it. It's probably something I will do when I'm older and my levels naturally drop. But why is it more complex for young people out there than just, you just take a little bit of testosterone and you're good? What's also going on there, and what should people know? And it's like a whole protocol you got to do. There's HCG, it's like, elaborate on that.
So taking testosterone, even at testosterone replacement therapy, which most people truly are trying to fudge, they're still getting suppression. It's not making them infertile. It's not male birth control. You still have, people do conceive children while they're on testosterone. That being said, there is, people do have long-term suppression within your testes can cause cellular apoptosis, causes the signaling for cells to kill themselves. And so people will have to use 250, international units of human chorionic gonadotropin or 25 international units of human menopausal gonadotropin to mimic what luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone would naturally do in your testes to maintain both testicular size, but also testicular potential for production. And these drugs are also used when people get off of steroids when they post-cycle therapy. If you're doing a true post-cycle therapy, you would gap that. You'd allow the testosterone to eliminate through 5 full half-lives, and then you'd be taking HCG or HMG during that time, and then you'd probably take something like enclomiphene, which is a gray area version of clomiphene citrate, which is a selective estrogen receptor modulator. Enclomiphene citrate or enclomiphene does not have the zooclomiphene isomer of the clomiphene citrate drug, and so it does not cause serious side effects or any potential for ideation of, which some people report in clomiphene citrate. Additionally, enclomiphene is more effective, and people will take that to recover. So if you are on steroids and you want to get off, you can raise your testosterone back up. Additionally, if you've taken SARMs and you feel like you're low testosterone, you're suppressed, or if you got exposed to something else, there are options. Even clinics can prescribe things to you. But
so basically, like what you're saying is like when people take these exogenous substances, like it's giving your body a signal saying, okay, we are getting testosterone from somewhere else, so we don't need to produce as much. So your balls stop producing as much testosterone, and that causes a cascade. And so people taking it exogenously will need to then use other substances to help the body signal to crank natural testosterone production back up.
Yeah.
Is that basically...
That's spot on. Yeah, I should have been trying to lead it back to that point, but yes, you do have to usually cover potential side effects, and people end up taking more than just testosterone. So they'll take nandrolone and family steroids like nandrolone and phenylpropionate or Deca, and these two can cause, well, they aromatize in a different way. There's this 5-alpha reductase enzyme which catalyzes their transformation to a different steroid which can cause balding, and if you're taking something like finasteride will not prevent that. Other steroids additionally, like DHT derivative drugs. So people have to take a variety of different drugs to cover up the side effects of the initial drugs.
It gets dicey. It seems like a, you know what I mean? It just seems like a complex like path to go down, where I think a lot of people think it's like kind of simple and it's kind of like easy to do. And oftentimes people will kind of have to be on something for the rest of their lives once they start. Whereas if you just stay natural, you can be natural for an extremely long time. My goal is to be natural for a very long time, and it makes life kind of easy, not having to rely on all these substances. Like I just rely on, good food, exercise, sleep, all that type of stuff. Supplements too, zinc, basic ones that have, been shown to help your endocrine production. Like I'm taking 6 milligrams of boron lately, and there's like good studies on it. It's pretty simple.
When I was getting off of, I did anabolics for a year and a half. I tracked everything that I ate, everything that I did. When I was getting off, I did take this trace minerals. Those are very important, obviously, for testicular production. Zinc, boron, selenium, all of those. Fantastic. There's human research on this. You can go to Science Direct right now and find out all you need to know.
Yeah, and it's because like our body has evolved with these things. You can think of it like just like slots of like a puzzle, and our body, like if you're deficient in zinc or deficient in copper or deficient in boron, your body has just trouble functioning in various ways, repairing your skin, having optimal endocrine function, all these type of things. And it's pretty easy to get through your diet. You don't even need supplements, but I don't mind a little zinc copper balance supplement or a little extra boron to mess around with that. So you should definitely maximize everything you can do naturally. And I enjoy being natural. The only things that I've taken recently were like a MOTS-C peptide. That's just like a mitochondrial energy. It makes you feel like a little more energized. But that's the only thing the only thing I take other than that is a little caffeine. I enjoy being natural. I enjoy, optimizing my diet, sleep, and exercise. Again, those are things that whether you're on or off, you do need to have those locked in. And I think that's the importance of the information you offer and also what Jacob offers with the nutrition is so essential. Sleep, so huge. It's a natural performance enhancer. That's what people don't get. Like they look at these other things and it's like, more often than not, like clavicular, like during his thing, he's like, well, I use this stuff because I like to drink, I like to, not eat healthy, and these things can be like a Band-Aid, but it just seems like complex. I mean, like, can you talk about like some of the, I guess like what are some of the things you would do that you do like naturally that are huge performance enhancers?
Yeah. So firstly, I want to say it's kind of sad that good sleep is seen as a performance enhancing tool, because in reality, bad sleep is causing performance detriment.
Yeah. And like people go like pre-diabetic after a few nights of bad sleep. Obviously, it's not something to over panic about. You're not going to be pre-diabetic for life, but like we do see that. It's like kind of like, damn. Like,
Yeah, and Matthew Walker has a great book on sleep called Why
Absolutely.
We Sleep, and it goes into the effects of getting poor sleep, with your blood glucose control, with your hunger cravings, with your cognitive effects and energy levels. And sleep is so important. And we actually have a lot in common that we do for sleep, whether that be limiting blue light and doing a relaxation technique, whether that's reading or a little bit of meditation, and just trying to do everything that you can to make sure you're getting that good sleep every night. Because anecdotally, I've noticed an extreme difference
100%.
in even my ability just to socialize, to keep my emotions under control, to not have anxiety, to remember and recall and store memories and learn, even with just a difference of an hour of sleep per night. And one other thing that I learned that through my sleep tracker and also through Matthew Walker is you don't get as much sleep as you think you're getting. When you're in bed, people go to bed at 10 p.m. and set their alarm for 6 in the morning and say that, oh, I got my 8 hours of sleep. But you probably didn't. You probably got maybe 7 hours of sleep because you miss out so much from these little awakenings that you were never even aware about, that you wouldn't know about unless you tracked it.
Yeah.
So people don't realize they need to be in bed for longer. You shouldn't be sitting in bed on your phone waiting until you're so tired that you pass out. You should have a set time that you are creating, that you have planned out to be your bedtime, and you're allowing your circadian rhythm to put forth for you, rather than just pushing yourself until you can't stay awake any longer. And that's how I was for years.
And people like, dude, I get it, man. I've been a teenager. Like, you need to reframe that stuff that Jacob was just talking about as like much as people would get stoked about like maybe injecting themselves with something or taking some like magic. You need to look at like sleep and your nighttime routine like that. So if you're lifting and trying to get big in the gym, you need to be like, bro, I'm about to put on, like you see these like memes of like, trend twins and people like that, like taking trend and listening to heavy metal, and it gets like young people stoked, like they're impressionable. Like, I get it, man. I watch those things. I never take trend, but it makes me want to like run through a wall and go to the gym. You know what I mean?
Bro, I'm gonna take Retta and I'm gonna lose all this weight. Well, it's like, holy shit! If you locked in your sleep speeds up weight loss. It's like
100%. They need to look at it with the same ferocity that they do these other substances. And I think this is a perfect. I'm gonna use a story to get into the topic of trend and we had a buddy. We're watching the UFC here, and we had a buddy tell us this story, and I was like, it was so funny. He was like, bro, trend like messes with people's minds like a lot. Like, it has negative cognitive effects. And we just saw a meme that one of the trend twins broke up with his girlfriend. His girlfriend broke up with him because he was going to a bunch of strip clubs, and someone made a meme saying once he gets off a cycle, he's going to come to this reality of like, oh my God, what was I doing? And why was I going to these strip clubs? Because these things can kind of take a hold of your mind. But we had a buddy who was sitting here watching the UFC, and he goes, dude, yeah, that trend can like mess with people's minds. We had a buddy that turned gay. He started taking trend.
What?
He goes, we had a buddy. He goes, yeah, he started taking trend. Next thing you know, he was like banging dudes and everything.
Yo!
I told him, I was like, Zahir, that was a gay man. And he's like, no, the trend. I'm like, Zahir, we could inject Albert and I with all the trend in the world right now. I promise you, we're not going to go bang dudes.
Well, there is not become gay, but they do. There's been some interesting stories.
Yeah, I want to. Okay, interesting stories. I want to get into, but two things. I want you first to touch on the cognitive effects, and then I want you to touch on the skin negatives, which we see constantly with gear. You look at Sam Sulek. You're trying to look smacks and look good. It's like some of these things. Yeah.
Well, I feel that one reason that I do look older than I am, and then clearly because you're accelerating. I'm 23. I look like I'm
32.
I look like I'm 27, 28. That's what I get constantly told. 32. You look good for 32, man.
Thank you.
You know, having locked in. Jacob looks so good. He's got.
I get told I look like a built 15-year-old.
Yeah.
I would guess anywhere from 13 to 23. Yeah. Hey,
your skin.
Man. Yeah, wide range. Yeah. You go into acting, you'd be able to play a bunch of roles.
As soon as high school. Modeling contract for this guy over here, LA. But yeah, clearly, and there's far more depth you can go into on this, but steroids clearly are accelerating total growth and they do accelerate cellular aging. Now there's this one unspoken pathway. People do discuss this, but it's not looked at in the way that it should be. The inflammatory cytokine increase and the total alteration in cognition is not just the hormones themselves at play within your brain, or the things that in the cascade of variation that they become. It's also
trend making people gay.
There's been enough Reddit posts. Derek, More Plates, More Dates talked about it. There's another guy who's on TikTok. He's like, actually, I got an interesting story about this. He's been a coach for. Do you know who this guy is?
I don't know.
Okay, it doesn't. I wish I could remember. He's great, but there are a bunch of interesting stories within the fitness community about.
I know exactly what you're talking about now. Now you're talking about Cody Dial.
Cody Dial, yes,
He lives in San Diego.
Coach Dial. But
Yeah, so people
People
take
do
these
get-
substances and they get like hypersexual, basically.
and it's
Why?
well, that's mostly pointed towards trenbolone, but there are things from DHT derivative drugs like even primobolan. Some people seek out intentionally for sexual wellness. DHT cream. They'll also like look at like adding in a variety of different things for dopaminergic benefit or for libido benefit, for getting and maintaining erections. But that's not the main reason why people look at like taking Cialis in the gym. Most people are taking that stuff to work out. But when it comes to hormones, yes, they do affect how you think about relationships and love and the things that some of these people are interested in. I've seen it. I've seen it from people direct messaging me or making videos on TikTok, or even seen from Reddit where people are describing what they've gone through, and they'll be in the depths where they're like looking at strange pornography that's like they wouldn't usually be interested in, very stuff that probably isn't beneficial. And I'm hoping that people steer away from the pornographic industry to begin with. I feel that there's a grave detriment to your
I've done
mental
some
health.
posts on that. Yeah, it's getting dark out there for the kids. It's like when I was young, it would be like you steal like your dad's Sports Illustrated magazine,
Yeah.
right? And now it's like I have an AI girl or an OF girl that like I know their favorite color and their favorite movie. And I'm 12 years old, but I talk to
Send them
them.
money.
I talk to them every day, and it's like you're talking to a dude in the Philippines. It's just a
Jacob and I
Oh,
talked
yeah.
about something. In fact, I think that you should talk about this: the photo comments, and also.
Well, you were the one who'd experienced that. You should talk about that a bit because I'd never seen that.
Well, we both talked about how there's a great exposure just on Instagram Reels, but TikTok.
I know what you're talking about. They allowed photos to be commented.
It's not just the photo comments, but also just like the videos. But the photo comments are a big avenue by which people will be, whether it's cartoon pornography or just photos, and then in part of it there's like nudes being featured. And this platform does have kids, and
they're
am I
going to see it?
Am I going to cry that they saw some woman naked? No, but it's probably not beneficial because it can lead kids to something that would be unhealthy, and that's why it's like similar. Like that's just one avenue, of course. But if we're going back to the hormones thing, if you're taking something that's going to lead you to behaviors that you wouldn't naturally already be drawn to, something that's like going to compel you in this way, and like you're going to wear down because it's constantly in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
It can cause people like cheat on their wives, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Make all types of dangerous decisions. It's not just sexual decisions, but also like gambling and other risk-related decisions, and driving erratically, violent actions. So those, I don't want to pretend like that's the common case for most people who are enhanced. I want to be honest that many people experience gear cheer. They're happy. They can be stable. They can manage a protocol intelligently. Just to be clear.
For sure.
But there are potential dangers, and people will pretend like those are just, silly, funny things, when in fact what's happening is a symptom of drug abuse that is causing brain damage.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like a hormonal alteration, but the variety of 4 to 5 inflammatory cytokines in your brain, causing serious cellular, denigration. These nerves, these axons are experiencing this. Alterations, and also just like catecholamine, like total production and release. You'd think that like, wow, this person like got a traumatic brain injury, but they've just been abusing specific drugs that do cause these behavior changes, and so people won't point to that. And then there's some people who have abused these things more, and they may have changed their personality completely unwittingly. And you don't notice it until like you're off, and you can't tell you're acting crazy in the moment, or
For
that
sure.
you're
You're just gonna feel it. I mean, your hormones are definitely just like at play on how you feel, and that's why having good, healthy levels of testosterone really help as a man with depression and just drive and all this stuff. So I think that's really important. I think a interesting thing I guess we could talk about is like, okay, so why have I never got on anything? Like why have I never tried these peptides or these hormones? And I think the reason is obviously like I love staying natural. I mean, like my whole brand is just like natural health and wellness, and I feel really good naturally. I do all my blood work and stuff. Obviously, I'm not like super jacked, although I have been on Reddit natty or not, which is just it's so absurd. Like I feel like anybody with a tiny bit of muscle, they throw on natty or not. It's like anybody that actually knows lifting knows not only that my physique is achievable naturally, it's not even that good. I don't spend enough time lifting. I really like doing things that are very cardio based, like surfing and jujitsu and stuff, which you probably experienced this, like doing a good amount of jujitsu. It's kind of hard to sometimes bulk up and just like plan out your week to have an optimal physique in terms of bodybuilding when you do something like jujitsu because it's so cardio intensive. Do you ever experience that?
Yeah, especially when I first started, I loved it so much. I would train jiu-jitsu between 7 and 10 times a week.
Okay,
I was I was pulling 2 a days.
So much cardio.
And that was a few years after I'd started like seriously lifting. And it got to the point where I could not lift because I was doing so much jiu-jitsu.
100%.
And I had to sort of separate them and figure out how I can do either one or the other and prioritize one, or just do so little of, say, maybe 3 days a week of jiu-jitsu so I can still do 3 days a week of lifting.
For sure.
Because it was just so fatiguing. I'd get so inflamed. My joints would hurt.
For sure.
And it's just, you can only do so much with your body. And so it's hard to, I mean, there are really big jiu-jitsu guys out there.
A lot of them are on what we just talked about, plus more.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. But
and
hey, shout out to them doing their thing. But like basically I've been on these posts somehow, which is just hilarious. But yeah, I've never taken anything 100% natural. And now a big reason why I haven't is because, like you said, it's sort of complex. When you start hearing about it, you go, oh, it would sound nice to just do a little testosterone and it would have some health benefits. And you really look into it and you're like, it's a little bit more complex than that. I want to have kids in the next few years, and like, okay, there's some potential risks there, and like, what do I really want to? What if like it does make me somewhat infertile, and I need to get on HCG and like do this whole thing? It's just I travel a lot. Like I was just in Costa Rica for 12 days. If you're on this stuff, you'd have to travel with this. You can't just suddenly one day stop a whole protocol and then hop back on it. That creates big swings in your androgens, and it can create
you don't want to get
issues.
Arrested traveling to another country for like importing something.
Yeah, that's a literal risk. And like and then other issues talking to the functional medicine doctors is they'll see, this is sort of anecdotal, but I love these guys because they run such deep tests on people that when you talk to them, they're on thousands per year. Just talking to them, they're like, dude, so many of these people that mess around with various peptides, not really talking about BPC and the ones that really don't act on that system of the body that much, but like when people run certain peptides, certain androgens, they're like, dude, their immune function oftentimes is disrupted. One of the functional medicine doctors says he sees a lot of gut disruption in these people. Now, that could be from a bunch of things. A lot of these bodybuilders will eat heavily processed diets and they just don't they don't eat enough fiber. There's that. But they say there's a lot more issues in these immune function issues, elevated inflammatory cytokines. Like they just see issues. Like, and you brought some of those up. So it's like, okay, like it's not so simple, and there can be a cascade of issues that happen from this. You might put on more muscle. You might experience these benefits, but the body is like this system. You pull on one string and you might experience, now your anti-aging pathways might just be like, shot, so to speak. Yeah. So like there's like information with that, but like I think it's really important just to have a fair conversation about it. Like, yeah, guys, like I might try like one of those like healing peptides. It doesn't seem like a bad thing to do. Mm-hmm. When I'm older, I might try some TRT or whatever they have going there. I mean, who knows what they're going to have going in 10 to 15 years. It's going to be fascinating. And you hear about these things that pop up, and I'm interested in them. There's one that popped up, copper GHK, and I can't find any information about it because when you Google it, it's like, this is the best thing ever. It heals your hair, skin, and nails. It lowers inflammation. And you're like, what? Then you look on Reddit and people are like, they were getting like metallic taste in their mouth. You're like, that's freaky. Like, and then there's like melanotan, which makes people tan. Like, have you ever seen people?
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Jacob's thinking of doing it. Jacob comes in.
No.
He comes in like a week. He's like, no, I'm not on melanotan. I'd like to deny the allegations. And he's like super
pale.
Dark.
What?
He's like so dark. We're like,
yeah. What's that,
like,
guy?
Okay, so can you do like a little like a speed run of some like weirder peptides and like stuff like that? Because there's like crazy shit out there. Like,
there's some interesting ones.
And some of the ones that the looks maxing community have gotten obsessed with.
Okay. There's a variety. First, for the altered ones, and I'd have to probably go back and look at a list. There's about 4 that are like anti-cancer specifically. One that I actually truly believe has. Now, I'm not selling this. If you have cancer, don't say this is like a life-saving advice. Yeah. But these do have very interesting. So there's one that's targeting senescent cells and like clears your body of cells that have reached their end stage. It's potentially like an anti or preventative measure against tumor development. But there's this thymosin alpha-1. This is something that's going to upregulate your body's immune system, help with the killer T cells specifically, and it was explored for that benefit. I think that actually could have some good potentials. But there's a variety of these different drugs they're a little more niche. They get into different, especially with nootropics, cognition alteration. There's so many different growth factors they're going to mess with, but some of them, again, like the hepatocyte growth factor, like may come with a potential side risk for a higher risk of developing cancers. So it really just ultimately depends on which things you're looking at. Now, the most basic things that people are looking at for skin cosmetics, the people like market like the glow stack, people like commodify and almost kind of ruin things with their commercialization of things. But melanotan 2 can cause like severe headaches and nausea to the point where it lasts for 8 hours. Migraines. What's the first peptide I ever did? I tried melanotan just to a little bit, and it caused. I mean, maybe I just had a horrible reaction. It also caused like skin pigmentation issues where you're getting freckles all over your body, and it's not just so. People maybe falsely attribute some potential risk for like this melanocortin receptor agonism to contribute to like skin cancer. That's generally it would be probably more protective because it's helping you to avoid more ultraviolet radiation damage, but it still does come with some potential side effects, and other than just the flushing and the potential spontaneous erections that are like extremely uncomfortable and won't go away, and also like the horrible nausea. I know that
sounds fun.
I've
had one this whole podcast, but
it's
irrelevant.
You can't. But then there's the GHKCU. There's a copper ion peptide. People use that for hair, skin, and nails. It does work. It's mostly the like cosmetic element portion of growth hormone without like the potential alternative side effects that people are looking at. There's more complexity to that. So I'm not trying to use your platform just to sell my stuff like code bugs, but these things can get, of course, come with a variety of potential side effects. I do think that peptides are a lot safer than most other things though.
For sure. And they cover a lot of things. Like you could take peptides that would mess you up, and you can also take ones that appear like, okay, these are like stuff like BPC, and you see like companies like Ways to Well and stuff like building out like clinics where they're using it and stuff. It does appear that these things are going to be used in some way in just general health and wellness and care. Now, like you said, it's obvious that if someone does too much of this, they can have issues. One of the big things, and it's too deep of a subject to even get into, but the sourcing of these things is a huge issue right now because of the lack of legal framework, I would say. People are buying these things that are just sourced poorly. Sometimes just from China, sometimes not the right thing. It's hard to find a good source for these things. So while using actual BPC in a safe way does appear like it's pretty safe, as we've talked about, what you're actually getting and how you're actually using it. Yeah.
So it's also like, so the potency and purity testing is important. Yeah, having third-party like Janishek testing for these is also important, and companies should have the COAs attached to whatever they're supplying. Now, they could lie. They could show you batch testing that isn't theirs. They could, tell you that this is what it is, and they have a third-party testing, but what they shipped you could be something else, or their sourcing could be inaccurate, and they could come with impurities within it. Is that entirely likely? Who knows? Additionally, I think that one thing that's kind of unspoken is like how much they are price gouging you, for the most part, and that's hard to avoid. But vendors do try to maintain some reputability. I guess that depends. There's 3 that shut down recently because the FDA has been pursuing legal action. Additionally, big pharma like Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk have been sending out cease and desist letters and taking people to court. This is
because wouldn't big pharma want to
eliminate competition?
Wouldn't big pharma want to just grab control of many of these peptides? So wouldn't they rather have you go to your doctor, say you have joint pain, and you get BPC prescribed by Eli Lilly versus
that would be fantastic.
I went on the internet and I bought it, and that's the way that human beings are using it.
Yeah.
But aren't they trying to grab control?
And I'm really surprised that they haven't pursued. I guess it's just a process of research and development and total like cost analysis. But we'll find like the main reason that they're trying to shut down certain gray area suppliers is because they're supplying semaglutide, tirzepatide, or liraglutide, which are the 3 of the FDA approved glucagon-like peptide receptor agonists, and these things are they work, they're good, but of course they're trademarked or they're controlled by those companies, and they don't want any competition, especially if you're selling it for if Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk are selling it to you for $1,000 a month, and you can get it for like $50 a month. You're probably going to go with a $50 one. So they don't like that, and they want to destroy these people who are doing this, and they will send people to prison for 8 to 20 years.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would think in my audience that I hate Ozempic, and I think it's you're coming from an area where a lot of people work in hospitals, a lot of people work with morbidly obese patients, and it's like if somebody is 700 pounds, yeah, Ozempic it is a life-saving drug for that population. Even if somebody just has they're just morbidly obese, like these drugs can be life-saving. I think where it gets dicey is a 17-year-old who's 20 pounds overweight getting on it. But yeah, can you talk about some of the stuff that you've probably seen or just even case studies of just in the hospital? Like people need to realize the population that we're dealing with and like why Ozempic isn't something I'm going to overly hate on or shit on. And I know you're probably in the same boat.
Yeah, I think most people see Ozempic or GLP-1s as like taking the easy way out. But for a lot of people, they've tried the hard way and it hasn't worked, whether it's because they've done it incorrectly or not. There are a lot of people who have just never seen success. And the only way that they're going to improve their health is by using one of these drugs. And they're relatively very safe. I mean, the risks that come with,
especially for somebody who's like that obese.
Yeah, when you're comparing the risks,
it's like yeah, you might have some bone loss density, muscle loss. It's like this dude's gonna die.
Yeah, what is the risk of being 400 pounds overweight versus maybe losing some strength in your bones?
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, they are quite literally life-saving and life-extending drugs that are empowering and give them normal lives.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is then when people who probably don't need to be using them start taking them. Like if someone like me just wanted to get a little more lean to look better on social media, there's just no reason to do so when all of those other tools are available to me of knowing how to track my diet and exercise and all that. And so most people always tend to think that it's just the easy way out and not really see the actual specific use case scenarios where GLP-1s are absolutely essential for the survival of some people.
Truth. And again, it's like if we could encapsulate or put in a syringe or whatever, running a slight calorie deficit while having a slightly higher protein diet and using satiating high fiber foods, getting your hydration. I know it's difficult, guys. It's really not that difficult. Again, that would be the most insane drug ever because, it doesn't have any negative side effects, only has positive side effects. It's not that hard to do. You feel good. You add more muscle. It's like it would be a dream thing. Now, we do see 19-year-olds taking, what is it, retatrutide, which is a GLP-1 agonist.
Yeah, it's a triagonist.
Okay.
It is a variety.
Okay, so
it's those gastric
Clav
emptying
comes up to us. He goes, why would I not just take retatrutide? Why is he taking this? Why are some of these young kids taking these? And what can be the negative side effects?
First, I want to say it is very important for you to control your diet, and that is first and foremost. You're going to have to do that whether you're on these things or not. So it's not really taking the easy way out. You're still having to do exercise. Hopefully, you want to maintain muscle because having more muscle means greater caloric expenditure just generally. But you're still going to have to control your diet and your total caloric intake when you're taking these things. There's no mechanism by which they cause bone mineral loss or muscle catabolism. It would just be the alteration in your diet that is causing or contributing to that. Additionally, there's some false belief that these things are extracted from Gila monster venom because the very initial 25-year-old exenatide was derived from a general human response to one portion of that venom, one which is not in their venom, it's in their saliva. So it's not poisoning you. Additionally, these things aren't causing like pancreatic inflammation or pancreatic cancer, which was an initial critique. But these things have been around with safety research for about 20 years. So why are people taking this when they're young or even when they're lower weight? There's a dopamine control element, which that's one of the main factors by which it's helping you to control your appetite. It's not just that it alters ghrelin and leptin potentially like indirectly, and then alters gastric emptying and HbA1c and blood glucose uptake and disposal, but that it's altering dopaminergic like feedback and reward. So people will take this, they get an advantage to potentially quit alcohol substance abuse or quit nicotine addiction, and that if you've ever been addicted to nicotine, you can know that that's kind of hard. So there's a clarity of mind element to that. That's one reason that people may take it for like a micro dose and continuously take it. Now, should you do that? No. But there is like longer term safety research on these things. 1 year for retatrutide, which was the New England Journal of Medicine research published 2023. And then there's cohort studies for large groups of people going on 3 years. So we can see that it's probably not going to give you the horrible side effects that some naysayers may bring up. But do you need to be taking it just for some potential benefits of like, you should have the, discipline to avoid, the processed foods, alcohol, and nicotine generally, but slowly. But, I can see why people who might be lighter, who aren't morbidly obese, who aren't even clinically overweight might take it for some other benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Should you do that? I guess that's ultimately up to you. I don't think anybody underage, though, during a key stage of development should be limiting their appetite or altering these processes by which your body is transporting and uptaking glucose, or altering your digestion. Again, altering your digestion. It's not the drug that's changing your gut microbiota. It's the alteration in your diet. But doing that can have potential benefits. It may also be detrimental. The benefits would be that your gut's so tied in with your neurology, with your mental and emotional state, that changing what you're eating or not changing what you're eating and continually eating terrible food, but just eating less food overall may change your gut biome to be worse. You may look for these tasty foods, less satiating foods, even while you're on GLPs, and you may not cosmetically improve to the degree that you want. A lot of the progress, a lot of the intelligent use of this still relies on your deployment and knowledge of nutrition. So that's why, first and foremost, and I keep nailing this home, but I've put this in every video because you have to add this caveat. If people don't hear this, then they think I can just use this and I don't need anything else, that you have to control your sleep, diet, and exercise. And so, I have some incentive to sell this stuff, but that's, I recognize that there are side effects, that people have to do anything intelligently. And then I don't think that minors, especially people who are like, oh, I'm 10 pounds overweight, I can't lose this weight without using a GLP-1.
Yeah, that's a crazy
that's
statement,
silly. And I'm not going to upsell that.
Yeah, and it's almost like a mental discipline thing, especially at that age. I completely agree. I think a good way to summarize this podcast is, it's like, I'm never going to come on here and just like disregard all these amazing things that I'm fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by the whole peptides, by all this, TRT and different protocols people are using. I think it's really important. Okay, here's a good way to summarize it. I'm not worried about somebody like Ian messing around with these things, because obviously he's extremely intelligent about it and he's going to research it in depth. You watching this, if you're 16 years old and you think there's some magic thing and you don't even know what SHBG is, you've never gotten your testosterone checked, you don't even dial in your sleep, you hit the za and can't sleep like 4 times a week. If you are like that, then you should not do these things. It's somewhat complex and you really have to know your stuff, because we don't have extremely long-term data on these things. And if you look at it as just like, I'm going to do this because it's a good shortcut and it's safe, I think that's a wrong way to look at it. If you're looking at it like someone like Ian is, or hey, let me like dive into the research on this in depth, and it's kind of fun to look into these things and there's some evidence that they're safe, and that's a different conversation to have. So I think overall it's like, especially if you're young, stay natural. And if you're older and you're interested in these things, dive into the research. Don't rush into these things. Educate yourself for a long time about it. I've been hearing about BPC for so long. And it's like, it's just more complex than meets the eye for many of these young kids. Everything that you talk about and I talk about are natural performance enhancers that people need to stop looking at as, that'll do a little bit. The sleep will do a little bit. The creatine will do a little bit. No. These things are huge. Like, they're huge performance enhancers. And on another side of it, this is just something I feel, and you could debate me in the comments below. These things can mess up your mind where you become mentally weak. Athletes have talked about this a lot, where you will feel like you rely on these substances. If you're off of a cycle, you'll feel mentally weak, and sometimes obviously physically weak by, like the androgen effects. But for a lot of people, bro, you're going to take that sort of out or try to do that quick fix, and it'll mentally weaken you. So I don't think any of us here are trying to throw out, they never use these substances. You're 70 years old and your testosterone is crashed, or you're 700 pounds, don't get on a GLP-1. It's like, no, we're all trying to have a fair take on it. But any last words?
Yeah, I'll put it in a way that your audience can probably understand. If you're not locked in, you need to lock in.
Yes, let's
And if
go.
you are locked in, you probably don't need to be taking any of these things, especially if you are young. That's my summary.
100%.
You think it simplifies it, it will complicate it. And if you don't know what you're doing, if you take testosterone but you don't have an aromatase inhibitor or anything else, you're gonna get gyno.
You're gonna get a lot of these things that
facial swelling.
We've seen so many of these kids, bro, like that. They start taking this stuff because they want to get
start balding,
jacked and look good and this. And they might for a little bit. And then the reality of these substances, as you know, if you're not dialed in, you're not able to manage it, you don't know what you're doing, they end up gyno, balding, back and face full of acne. Their balls have shrunk at this point. They don't know how to restart their testosterone growth. And now you've literally become probably the thing you were trying to avoid by taking these things. It's kind of ironic.
I think you can do a lot of things intelligently, but people just have to know what they're doing. And again, I don't think that you should start it if you're in any stage of development. And I think that you continue growing even up till age 22. So it would be ill-advised for anybody who's just turning 19 to think, well, I just turned 19, I can take it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it will just complicate things. And I think that you guys really need to know what you're doing and, try as hard as you can to prevent side effects. But regardless, you're going to have side effects and you'll have to see how you feel about those.
Yeah. Stoked, guys. Much love. Ian, where can they find you?
That'll be Ian_Byington or Contrarian People's Freedom on TikTok.
You got a few accounts, man.
I got a few.
All, man. Yeah, dialed in. Jacob, where can they find you?
I'm JacobFoods on Instagram and TikTok. That's
Stoked.
it.
And if you want to get shredded, Jacob does some coaching. My buddy Tanner does some coaching. Beach Cowboy. They talk about stuff that can help you. Exercise, diet, sleep, basic stuff. If you're trying to put on size, great value there. If you're trying to lean out, great value there. Start there. Start the natural way. And
book a consultation with Jacob. He's great. He knows what he's talking about. He'll help you. So
stoked. And then I don't know, man. These injuries. I think I need some BPC, some
code bugs.
500. We'll see, guys. But I would document the process for y'all and talk to you guys about it if I do that, and could be fun. Much love. Leave your questions below. We'll try to get to some of them, and I'll check in with you guys soon. Adios.